What's going on, everyone? I am just a typical, average American here today to react and learn about Canada's immigration U turn. So, we're talking about immigration. Can't imagine that this'll be controversial at all. No, no, definitely not. So I'll start by saying that here in the United States, immigration is a huge topic of debate, and it is a huge part of our politics in the US. But honestly, I can't say that I understand what the immigration situation or discussion is like in Canada. So today, I want to learn more about this. So let's take a look.
For most of the 21st century, Canada has had one of the world's most liberal immigration regimes, which Canadians broadly supported. Today, Canada has one
Okay.
of the largest foreign born populations in the world.
Hold on. Right, like I've heard in that Canada has like a I don't know if it's like a government policy or you have a philosophy or something of multiculturalism. Like that is a part of Canada's national identity, I think. Like that you guys really support multiculturalism, which is awesome. And it is something that, frankly, Americans could probably learn from. Like, we don't do a good job about that at all. And let alone even trying to understand other cultures or here in the US we're very much in our own American bubble. So this is the did they say the foreign born population? Hold on.
Canadians broadly supported. Today, Canada has one of the largest foreign born populations in the world.
This is people who live in Canada that were born somewhere else, right? That's what foreign born means, right? 8.8 million? Like 9 million Canadians are foreign born? Isn't that like almost 25% of Canada's total population? Not that I'm not trying to like pass a judgment here or something. It's just that's genuinely shocking. Like for any country, 20 like 1 out of 4 people were born in a different country. You could just walk up to like someone random on the street if you're Canadian, and there's a 1 in 4 chance they were born in another country. That's amazing. I had no idea it was that high. I mean, it says the United States has like 50 million, which frankly, I didn't even realize it was that high. But even still, in the US, that's like 1 out of 7. It's pretty high, actually, higher than I thought. 1 out of 7. For Canada, it's like, right? It's almost 9 million, and there's like 40 million Canadians, right? Wow.
Canada's previous Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, was arguably one of the last in a dying breed of explicitly pro migration politicians, setting ambitious targets for new permanent citizenships in recent years.
Okay. So they're talking about this already in like a very political sense, like it's a liberal ideology, Justin Trudeau, really pro immigration. And it's like, to a certain extent, like a lot of countries, especially first world countries around the world, have like a generally a pro immigration stance. It just all depends on how picky, is that a good word for it? Maybe your country is like what the requirements, how difficult it is, because you know, a lot of countries, especially now, need some amount of immigration. Like in the United States, I'm pretty sure our birth rate has fallen below the replacement rate for our population. You know what I mean? Like we're not birthing enough babies here in the United States Like, the American population is going to go down, just looking at our birth rates. So we frankly need some level of immigration. We need people to come to just to take part of our in our economy and take care of me when I'm old. And let's think about me for a second here. Who's going to do that? Um so yeah, like immigration, I don't know, here in the US it's almost like this scary tainted word, like immigration. Immigration? Like um particularly illegal immigration here in the US. But it doesn't have to be a negative thing.
And implementing generous refugee programs for asylum seekers from war-torn countries like Syria and Ukraine. However, in the past year or so, Canada has experienced a dramatic reversal. Immigration has cratered, and net migration has actually gone negative for basically the first time ever.
Say what? Net migration is negative? In the last, this is like very recent. This is the last, like literally the last couple of years. Immigration to Canada has plummeted. Did he say net migration is negative? There's more people exiting Canada than are coming? Am I understanding this correctly?
Ukraine. However, in the past year or so, Canada has experienced a dramatic reversal. Immigration has cratered, and net migration has actually gone negative for basically the first time ever.
Whoa! I mean, so immigration must be a huge topic of discussion in Canada. This is a huge shift. And honestly, it's amazing because here in the United States, this is something that we don't know about what's going on in Canada with stuff like this. Like so it's just amazing like what we're not aware of.
So, in this video, we're going to take a look at this insane reversal and explain how it happened. So, let's start by looking at the stats. For most of the 2000s and early 2010s, net migration ran at between 200 and 300,000 people a year. It started to rise after Justin Trudeau's election in 2015, coming in above 400,000 in 2018 and 2019.
400? Like double? Double the, like when Justin Trudeau became prime minister, immigration to Canada doubled? That's either because immigrants really freaking love Justin Trudeau or Canada changed a policy or like made it easier, right? That's the only explanation. Well, it's interesting because like Canada, the United States, like for a lot of people around the world, I understand like a lot of people want to immigrate to our countries. Maybe not the US so much nowadays, but at one point, a lot of people like have an ambition to do that for one reason or another. So it makes sense that a lot of people want to immigrate to Canada. Um, but did you doubled your immigration in like 2 years or something?
In 2015, coming in above 400,000 in 2018 and 2019, but really skyrocketed after the pandemic, rising to over 900,000 in 2022.
What? What? Am I getting these numbers correct?
300,000 people a year.
Oh, 300. I mean, 300,000 to 900,000?
Rising to over 900,000 in 2022, over 1.1 million in 2023, and then 800,000 in 2024.
And that's a big number for a country like Canada. The more I'm thinking, like in the U.S., I remember people were very upset, particularly. Also, now that I think about it, it's a different situation because in the United States, we're mostly mad about illegal immigration. That's what everyone's really upset about and debating, and you want to show these people like kindness and empathy, but you also don't want to just open the floodgates. And you want to help everybody, but you literally can't, or else it would do damage to your own country. You know, it's all very unfortunate, but a harsh reality. As old as time itself, you can't help everybody, but you want to help those that you can. and I guess those that deserve it, speaking candidly. But here in the United States, we're concerned about illegal immigration. In Canada, it sounds like this is legal immigration. You don't have like a Mexico border situation where people are physically climbing a wall or something, getting into Canada. This is all legal, right? Like by the law, right?
You can see from the graph, this was partly driven by an increase in permanent residents, but mostly driven by an increase in non-permanent residents.
And again, we're talking like for a few years, it was 1 million. That's a lot for a population like Canada, where you guys have now you have like 40, 41 million Canadians, right? Having 1 million people, that's a lot of wow. It's hard to just accommodate that much people in a country of your size.
Who mostly comprise students and temporary workers. This was largely
Okay, hold on. These are non-permanent residents. So yeah, with immigration, there's like a couple different pathways. If you're trying to permanently immigrate, like to the U.S., you have to have like you got like there's a show, 90 Day Fiance, where you have to get married to an American and then you can move here. You can get engaged, move here, and get married in 90 days, and then you can stay. It's like a whole reality TV show. So you can have family to immigrate here. You can immigrate to the U.S. The other ways I think are like for school, for a job, like, and for the most part in the United States, a lot of Americans really respect immigrants who come here legally. As a matter of fact, those are some of the smartest people in the US. Like, if you have a doctor, yeah, if you have a doctor and you see they're Asian or like Indian or something, something not super typical or common in the US, a minority here. If you see they're a minority, like Indian or Asian, you're like, wow, they must be really smart. Like I'm excited that they're my doctor. They must be very, very smart because it is difficult to immigrate to the US for like the purposes of a job or to be a doctor. So we actually have a very positive association with immigrants like that. It's really just the illegal immigration that Americans get very, very passionately angry against. And there's a whole spectrum of that, of course. For Canada, this is all legal. Some of it is permanent, some is not. And did they say it's a lot of students?
partly driven by an increase in permanent residents, but mostly driven by an increase in non-permanent residents, who mostly comprise students and temporary workers.
Students and temporary workers. You got 1 million students and temporary workers.
This was largely because, in response to post-pandemic labour shortages, the Trudeau government loosened the temporary foreign worker programme, allowing employers in a number of industries to hire up to 20% of their staff through the programme's low-wage stream.
There it is. Okay, I was waiting for like the explanation for this, how the numbers of immigration could go so high in Canada so quick. The restrictions were loosened. Canadian companies could hire more foreign workers. I mean, in the US, hiring foreign workers means you're trying to hire cheaper workers. I don't know if that's the same sort of thing in Canada or how you guys think about all that. But so I mean, on its face, it sounds fine, like good. You're having a whole bunch of students who are going to get a Canadian education. I mean, as long as they stay in Canada after and contribute to Canadian society and Canadian economy, that could all be good, right? But as long as that happens.
Trudeau's government also encouraged more student visas by essentially making it easier for students on temporary visas to become permanent residents.
So, okay, that's exactly what you would want if you're having students internationally come to Canada, get educated, you want them to stay. You don't just want to, selfishly, and with stuff like this, you got to be a little bit selfish. Like, let's be real. If your country is expending the effort to educate people, you want them to stay, and maybe you have to incentivize them to stay and be a part of your country.
At the same time, Canadian educational institutions were becoming increasingly reliant on tuition fees from foreign students, which is why the number of student visas rose from about 200,000 in 2015 to a peak of nearly 700,000 in 2023.
What? This is so confusing. I guess from my perspective, Canadian educators are relying on foreign students for tuition money or
Tuition fees from
what? Huh?
At the same time, Canadian educational institutions were becoming increasingly reliant on tuition fees from foreign students.
How reliant? How reliant are Canadian universities on the international foreign student tuition? Like, isn't that like a conflict of interest?
Which is why the number of student visas rose from about 200,000 in 2015 to a peak of nearly 700,000 in 2023. However, in the year or so since, things have gone in completely the other direction.
Okay. So I'm a little confused here, trying to get the whole picture. Under Specifically under Justin Trudeau, Canada's immigration policy changed, especially during the pandemic, where Canada was deemed necessary to have more foreign workers. Why did Canada need more foreign workers during the pandemic? Why not? Like, I know the pandemic, unfortunately, like a lot of people died, but it's not like you needed a million new foreign workers to like a million Canadians didn't die, did they? I don't know. I've never looked at those stats. Anyway, a lot of new foreign workers and students during the pandemic, and that's why it rose so high for those reasons. And the schools really benefited from this, getting lots of money, and maybe businesses too if the foreign work is cheaper. I don't know. Maybe that's an American thing. And then it really declined after 2023.
In the first half of 2025, with Trudeau resigning that January, net migration came in at just 60,000.
2025, when Trudeau resigned. Does this have something to do with Trudeau resigning?
This was a pretty dramatic shift in and of itself, but in the 3 quarters since, net migration has, somewhat astonishingly, actually gone negative, meaning more people are leaving than arriving. In the
What?
third quarter, for instance, it fell to negative 90,000, then negative 100,000 in the fourth quarter, and then negative 50,000 in the first quarter of this year.
Why? Okay, so that's the immigration U-turn. I mean, it's still a liberal government in Canada, right? It's literally just Trudeau had a lot of immigration, and Carney has managed to get negative? Like, how are you getting people to leave? Just giving them the boot, the Canadian boot, or maybe like an incentive, or maybe their visas ran out. I don't know. But it certainly is a roller coaster. Like, you can just literally, the graph looks like a roller coaster. Like, da, 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 up and then down. Like, something. This was a big thing in Canada the last few years.
It's hard to overstate how unprecedented this is. Canada
Yeah.
has never seen such rapid emigration in its history, and 2025 was apparently the first year in Canadian history where net migration came in below zero. So, what's
Wow.
going on here? Well, the first thing to make clear is that most of this shift is being driven by non-permanent residents, with the non-permanent population falling by more than 500,000 since 2025.
These are non-permanent residents. They're not citizens. They are maybe not even on the pathway to citizenship. And by definition, non-permanent, they had to go back home, or were they forced back home?
This is in part a consequence of policies introduced by the new government, led by Prime Minister Mark Carney, including most notably a series of caps on temporary residents. In fact, in his first ever post-election press conference, Carney pledged to bring the total number of temporary workers and international students down from over 7% of Canada's total population, where it was when he took over, to less than 5% by the end of 2027.
Well, there you go. That's all I got to hear. Obviously, this was a problem. There's no way Mark Carney would do that unless immigration was unpopular. Like, because he's also a liberal, right? I know he's different than Justin Trudeau, but to make such a radical change in Canada's immigration policy must have meant Canadians were not happy about all this. And it seems like a big change has been made.
Carney's government has also made it more difficult for temporary workers to become permanent residents, which was previously acting as a so-called pull factor for at least some temporary workers. These policies were a response to public sentiment, which turned sharply against immigration as net immigration skyrocketed during the last years of Trudeau's tenure.
Yeah, I mean, a couple things, like, just in general with immigration, it's tricky, because, again, when you're in a privileged country that's successful, like Canada, you want to help people. That is a natural instinct. It should be a natural instinct. It's a good thing. But your country can only hold so many. That's why I was really shocked when it was like 1 million immigrants in a year or something. Like, I was like, what? In Canada? Wow. Like, physically, where would they live? Like, that is, like, the infrastructure. Like, that does something. Like, in the US, a lot of people were complaining about, like, the idea that 10 million immigrants illegally got into the U.S. We don't really know the numbers, or it's hard to even trust our government's numbers at this point, frankly. But, yeah. But as a proportion of the United States, I don't know. That was like uncomfortable for us. 1 million compared to the population of Canada, 40 million for years. That is a huge. It does sound unprecedented, this whole situation. I'm trying to even grasp this whole thing.
According to IIRCC polling, for instance, the percentage of people saying there were too many immigrants coming into Canada rose from about 20% in 2020 to an all-time high of 54% in November 2020.
Wow. And that's Canada. Like, you guys are known for being nice. Nobody wants to be that guy who's like, there's too many immigrants. But it's like, it sounds like maybe there was too many immigrants, or like again, not that immigration has to be a bad thing, but you have to limit it. You have to be smart about it. You have to put in procedures and vetting of who is coming in and people that are going to contribute to your society. It's all, yeah, it's complicated, but some aspects of it should be like more common sense, I would think. So I didn't know this was like a whole drama in Canada, this whole thing.
24. Nonetheless, it's worth noting that, while most of the reversal has indeed been driven by non-permanent residents, net migration among permanent residents has also fallen. This is both because the number of new permanent residents is falling, in large part because the government has made it harder for temporary migrants to become permanent residents, but also because the number of permanent residents and Canadians leaving the country has risen slightly in recent years. We're not exactly sure why this is, but there's some evidence of a so-called brain drain. In other words, well-qualified and well-educated Canadians leaving in search of better economic opportunities elsewhere.
See, that's what you do not want. That is not good.
TD Economics analysis published earlier this year, for instance, found that better qualified Canadian immigrants were actually more likely to leave the country, suggesting that Canada's job market struggles to absorb or provide for the best qualified candidates. Unsurprisingly, this is all having a pretty severe effect on Canada's demography. Because Canada's natural population growth is already negative, in other words, more people die than are born every year, without immigration, Canada's population actually shrank by 100,000 people in 2025, the first
Wow.
annual decline since World War II. It will
Wow.
also probably bring down Canada's fertility rate. In other words, the average number of births per woman, at least in the short term, which currently sits at about 1.3.
Yeah, that's what I was touching on. Like, you do need some immigration, or your country's population is going to decline.
Nonetheless, it seems to have been good news for Mark Carney's political prospects. While Pierre Poilievre's Conservatives still enjoy a very solid lead when it comes to who Canadians trust more on the issue of immigration, as net migration has fallen, its salience as an issue has declined, with voters focusing more on other issues like the economy and Canada's tetchy relationship with its southern neighbour.
Ha! Yeah. Ha! Somehow that even found its way into this video. Yeah. This must have been a very, very big issue. Maybe it still is. I don't. For all of this to happen. That's all I can say.
The number of Canadians saying there are too many immigrants coming into the country, for instance, has fallen from a high of 54% in late 2024 to 47% in late 2025, while the percentage saying the right amount are coming has risen from 34% to 38%.
The right amount. Yeah, it's tricky. And it's something that's constantly debated here in the US. Like, it's kind of sad because, like I keep saying, like, immigration can be such a great thing, or it can actually do damage to you. And it's okay to acknowledge both of those things are a real thing.
And that gap will almost definitely narrow further in the future, given how sharply net migration has declined. It's also plausible that falling immigration rates have played a role in bringing down Canadian house prices, which has also helped boost Carney's numbers, at least.
What are these house prices? What are these house prices? What is going on in Canada? Is this the average house price? 790,000? What?
Carney's numbers, at least with aspiring homeowners. This has all helped bolster Carney's impressive poll numbers. The latest Abacus data poll suggests his government has a net approval rating of plus 23, and Carney personally of plus 19, making him perhaps the most popular centrist in the world. All in all, the fact that the famously pro-immigration Canadians are rewarding Carney for his relatively restrictive migration policies should serve as yet another reminder for centrists and liberals of quite how far public opinion has shifted on the issue in recent years. Canadian
No kidding. That's what I've taken away from this. Like, this is the liberals, like, policy, which is like to taper down immigration. So this must have been a huge topic. Canadians must have felt very strongly about this. I feel like this video kind of danced around like what the problem was. Like, Canada's immigration skyrocketed and then quickly had to be drawn back down, and then Canadians were happy about that. So it's just that the immigration into Canada grew too fast, too quick, too much. I mean, in its most simple terms, is that fair to say? That Canada couldn't sustain it, or I mean, based on these numbers, that would make sense to me. And now Canada is trying to, unfortunately, because you feel for these people who are just hopefully trying to get a better life. You feel for them, but you also have to take care of yourself. You do have to be selfish for certain things in order to help others. You have to help, like, make sure you're helped, taken care of. So, yeah, it's not pleasant to think about, or there's a certain responsibility there, but it is true. So this was really interesting. This is something we don't hear about, don't talk about in the United States. We have our own immigration problems and things we argue about. So this was a fascinating. I feel like I came in and learned about this like totally after the fact, and this has been like a huge crazy thing for years, which is an interesting perspective for me to come in on. So, but I enjoyed learning about this. So anyway, If you enjoyed this, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment with your thoughts, especially if you're Canadian. What do you think about all this situation and how it was handled and what the problem is or the solution or Canadian immigration? That'd be cool to hear about from Canadians out there. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to Canadian things that I've never seen before, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching and see you next time.